Hey there folks, Recon Trooper here, and I know it's been a while since my last, solo video. As anyone knows, it's mostly been podcasts on my channel, with some pretty decent, fellow podcasters, and it's been a while since I did one just by myself, and so if I sound a little rusty, that's why, because I'm more used to talking to somebody rather than by myself. But yeah, I decided to make this video because of some things I've recently learned, and it certainly bothers me. And I've as anyone probably knows, there's been a thing happening with the Godzilla fandom. And just to be clear, this is not going to be just about the Godzilla fandom. This is about all fandoms, period, because I feel like addressing all of them instead of just talking about one, because fandom is, a universal thing. It's not restricted to just Godzilla or Star Wars or Marvel, or for that matter, even, the old Disney cartoon movies that, are still watchable to this day, even if some people don't like them for whatever reason. And I don't mean newcomers, I mean people that have actually grown up watching them. And, but, fandom is a universal thing, and as such, the professionals and the convicts kind of are always in them, as you know. Professionals being the good people, and the convicts being the wicked ones. The kind of narcissistic, control freak kind of people that are easily triggered when nobody likes what they like, or vice versa. And, how they react is certainly problematic, because, like any real fan, and I do mean real fan, not anyone who calls himself a fan only to be, prove that they're the exact opposite, really, when you rub them the wrong way, and you're not even trying to. They're just triggered by it for whatever reason. And, they can't control themselves. Another thing about convicts, they have no self-control. They throw that away the second they decide to either, respond to somebody who, they disagree with, and, try to be a right fighter about it. Or, if maybe they've been wicked people all their lives and haven't had the sense to grow any, humanity still in their, in their little selves. But, I think that, and I'm speaking as a universal fan, so to speak. I like Godzilla. Heck, actually, correction, I like monsters, period. Godzilla, Kong, actually, which the Monsterverse kind of got me into. Yes, I like the Monsterverse. Sorry if you don't, but I do. And there's nothing you're going to do to change that. And if you even try to, well, I'm sure you're going to hit a good solid, adamantium wall before you even get past the first phase of trying. But Oh, that's another thing. Yes, I'm a Marvel fan. Hence the adamantium, thing I just referenced there. But yeah, I like Kong. MonsterVerse got me into it when I first saw, the Skull Island movie by I forget the director's name. He's got a hyphenated last name, but I forget his name. I'll have to look up on the internet somewhere after this video, of course, goes out. But yeah, I'm a fan of Star Wars too, and that includes sequels. I don't care what anyone with that uncontrollable, one-way street rage thinks. I like the sequels. I like Star Wars. Granted, I haven't seen it all because I have no interest actually in getting Disney Plus whatsoever, and even if I did have it, I probably wouldn't be obsessively watching all the shows because, well, for one thing, there's Star Wars and Marvel shows, so, it's too much for even the biggest fan of fandom out there to even contemplate in their brain, having to try to watch all that stuff. But, I don't just have no interest in Disney Plus besides, the way Disney themselves have been behaving lately between apparently, not backing down on their stance towards, Jack Sparrow returning in the next Pirates movie, whatever and whenever that may be, which is another thing I like. I'm a fan of Pirates of the Caribbean. All 5, not just the first 3, not just the first one, all 5, including Dead Men Tell No Tales, and which is kind of ironic given I think it was either a dream or I was waking up and that was the first thing on my mind last night at the time of this recording. I was, for some reason, thinking of Dead Men Tell No Tales, so maybe it's because I was watching it a whole bunch of times the last few weeks. I'm going to take a break from that. I'm going to wait until at least September before I watch it again, because after a while I do find I am a bit too obsessed over something I'm watching, so I have to force myself to get off of it and watch something else or focus on something else, and then, just kind of let different things take turns in my obsession, I guess. But yeah, I'm a fan of Star Wars, even if I don't watch all the stuff because I have no interest in Disney Plus. Granted, I did get Obi-Wan recently, and I didn't mind that one. I mean, granted, I'm not of the one-way street mind where, I'm not going to call it Disney Star Wars because it's Star Wars, plain and simple. There is no Disney Star Wars. There is no George Lucas Star Wars just because he made them, the first 6. And by the way, he didn't direct the episode 5 or 6, so he just wrote the stories for those. And, the directors of those had to kind of go with it. But, there is no George Star Wars or Disney Star Wars. There is just Star Wars, and it doesn't matter how much you don't like of a certain thing and you do of another, it's all Star Wars. It doesn't matter. Now, if you're bashing Star Wars on a daily, hourly, secondly basis, that brings into question as to whether you're actually a Star Wars fan, because a real Star Wars fan simply boasts about what they like and doesn't bash what they don't like, and that's kind of what I am like. I actually boast about what I like. If I do have a problem, I'm mainly just mild about it, but I don't explode like this, self-important, only my opinion matters, one-way street, volcanic freak that will go out of his way just to, get at somebody for saying what I just said. And by the way, good luck with that. Like I said, there's an adamantium wall between you and me right now, and until you break through that, then you have to also deal with the spiritual wall in front of that, and so many other walls. So basically, you're not going to get to me, anyone who, may not like me saying what I'm saying in this video. You're not going to get to me. I have as much right to an opinion as you do, and your opinions are not opinions if they start going after other people who you don't like their opinions of. Or, like, I'm not into the, the pride stuff either. I'm certainly not into it, but, I'm not going to start just randomly harassing people that are into it. I just kind of maybe look with disapproval at, not in a, hateful way, just kind of, like not really into that kind of lifestyle kind of way. But, I'm not going to go bashing anybody because of it. I mean, if it's their life and they want to live with it, they have to live with the rewards and the consequences all together, That's what this whole life is about, rewards and consequences for whatever we choose. But anyway, I'm not into that stuff. I don't care if a fan is a woman. I'm not going to go start, being a, creep, I guess. That's the best way I can put it. Trying to be more example-ish here, but I can't think of any right now. But yeah, I'm not gonna be like that towards them. And for that matter, I have my tastes. So if, a woman doesn't look like she's my taste, then that's another reason I'm not gonna do it. But that's beside the point. And, but I'm not into the whole harassing thing. I don't do that. And although I will say that after watching several videos about this Godzilla fandom thing, I've kind of had the, kind of desire to maybe be more of a, I don't know if being a fan is being part of a fandom or if they're both completely separate things. Because a fandom actually, when people talk, I hear people talking about the Godzilla fandom, it sounds like a community, like a group, social media has so many of these days. There's Call of Duty groups. There's Star Wars, of course, has, Erebor from Lord of the Hobbit. The whole treasure of Erebor. That's probably how many Star Wars groups there are. Times 5, perhaps, if, of course, it's even bigger than that. It can't be as big as Star Wars itself, though, because, there's so much of Star Wars we haven't ever seen, like planets and stuff we haven't ever seen, maybe heard of, maybe read of in one of the books that have been written in the decades long past since Star Wars started becoming, books and stuff. But anyway, that's again beside the point. So, but I don't know if I'm really considered a part of the fandom, or if I'm just a fan. Actually, I don't care which one. I'm a fan. I'm calling myself a fan. Nobody has any dictatorship over me, whether I call myself one or not, whether I am one or not. It's what I like, and if it's not what you like, too bad. I'm not gonna sympathize with you. Now, if it's something you don't like, but you're, interested in discussing stuff about, like one of my podcast friends, actually the one I do the most podcasts with, of course. Sometimes there's slight disagreements we have between things, like for instance Thor Ragnarok. He doesn't like at least at the time he first saw it, didn't like the comedic side of Thor. When the first time I saw it, I wasn't quite sure about it, which actually is the case with a lot of movies I see. Sometimes I'm not quite sure about it the first time, and then the second time and beyond, I'm more comfortable with it because I kind of am used to it. And I'm, again, not a hater. I don't go nitpicking at things that suddenly I find, less convenient for my tastes or whatever. I just, I do me, okay? I just do what I do when I'm watching. I continue watching, if it's a CGI thing, if it's a, message thing, or if it's simply just how someone acts in a certain scene or whatever, which I also can't give an example of. I'm just saying in general. Then, I'm just kind of... I just leave it at that, really. I don't, I don't start freaking out all over the internet about it and then wait for people to start coming at me so I can then fight back against them, which I think is another reason. I think people just like to fight, and so they attack certain people or say things that other people they know are going to get triggered by, and then, and because, as much as I don't condone fighting, I really don't, like, on the internet or in person or, across the world for that matter. People like fighting on movies and video games. I don't mean, with each other per se, unless they're doing like a Mortal Kombat game or something where they're trying to destroy the other one in game. But, those kinds of fighting things I have no problem with, but fighting on the internet, not so much. But I know I've kind of deviated from what I was initially getting at, so I'm going to backtrack. When I said I was going to, I was kind of reconsidering, when I see people getting attacked, like really attacked, which actually I don't see as horrendously. Granted, my only social media is Facebook, and I don't even go on that much these days. Maybe once, twice, at most 3 times a week, just to see what's up, for the heck of it. Not to mention notifications are annoying, so I have to manage those. Otherwise they, become a pain having to delete, 285 million notifications one day if I don't manage it now. I don't see that kind of thing on things. Like I see lots of course, sequel bashing or Star Wars, owned by Disney, not made, just owned by Disney, bashing, like this new show, The Acolyte, which, again, I don't have Disney Plus, no intention of getting it, so I don't know much about it, just from what I see in pictures, which, of course, isn't a whole lot, because a picture is just a screenshot and not the whole story of whatever. But, I see people constantly, throwing shade at it, and I've kind of, I've decided not to, I see it more like rats in a sewer, where you see rats just kind of attacking something, sometimes for no reason, and I don't bother even engaging with those people. I mean, maybe there was a time I did, but now I've decided, like, if they're not going after anybody, and if they're trying to go after somebody that made the show or the movie or whatever, they're, doubtful that those people are even going to read their messages, so they're just, they're basically just keyboard screaming, I guess. But yeah, like, I just leave those rats be. But if they go after somebody, it's a different story, because I don't condone bullying online, period, no matter what the franchise, reason, whatever. Granted, like I said, I'm not into the pride stuff, but I'm not gonna just be not gonna be a wicked person and just harangue anybody about it if they are into that stuff. I'll just maybe sit here, shake my head, or just kind of, look with disapproval with my real eyes, and scroll by, but I'm not gonna just say, like, things that are not appropriate, and I don't mean, whatever, but I just mean just being an outright moron about it, an outright freak show, narcissist, whatever, but, yeah, and so, I don't see a whole lot of severe stuff on Facebook. I'm sure there's plenty more things, like Twitter or X, and I'm sure Discord's got plenty of them. Of course, I don't do Discord server stuff much. I'm more of the DMing than CMing, community messaging. And because, for one thing, it's nice to just have a one-on-one chat with somebody instead of having, 20 other people seeing the message and then, agree, sure, but, if it's a group discussion, that's one thing. If it's me talking to somebody specific, and then I've got 20 other people queuing in, then that's kind of, again, if people agree with it, that's not a bad thing. People who don't agree with it, of course, that's them. I don't really want to see the message or whatever I'm saying, because they would either take it the wrong way or, just be what they are, dummies, wicked people. But yeah, I'm not, I don't see that kind of stuff on Facebook, but I will say if I ever did see stuff like that, I'm kind of starting to feel a desire and a need to maybe stand up for somebody if they're receiving that kind of stuff, and I know the jerk probably wouldn't listen anyway. They would just focus their attention on me, which, they can only do that so long before they say something that I can just report them on, and then, sometimes battles don't take a simple message. They're kind of long. Some of you have probably seen Return of the King, and the Battle of Minas Tirith took a good, 2 days maybe before it finally finished at the end. But yeah, I'm kind of considering being more of a standing, more of a defender. Of course, I'm not going to attack. I could care less if people think, Disney Star Wars is worse than George's Star Wars. Even though it's all Star Wars, I don't care what anyone says. that doesn't like me saying that, or anyone saying that for that matter. Star Wars is Star Wars until it starts turning into Lord of the Rings, where they don't use lightsabers or blasters anymore. Then it's not Star Wars anymore. It's, well, Lord of the Rings Wars. Okay? But, as long as they have the spectacle that Star Wars has, all the key elements, lightsabers are the big thing, blasters, battles, of course, and of course, Jedi, usually. I mean, apparently some things like Andor don't have any Jedi, or Sith, or lightsabers, which I haven't seen it, so I don't know for sure, although I am kind of not, I don't think it does, given that it's about Cassian Andor, not, and I doubt he found any Jedi in his, during his time before Rogue One, but anyway, I'm not gonna go after those kinds of people just because they say that. And I mean, sure, it maybe is a little unsettling to see fans, so to speak, of Star Wars saying this isn't Star Wars, or calling it Disney Wars, or all these kind of pointless that they just cause headache excuses for what it, calling them names that, just isn't, there's no merit to it. It's, but, and, Marvel too, I'm not gonna see Marvel Disney Plus stuff. Well, I've seen a few things that I guess, gotten a different way than, of course, the official way, which Disney really sucks about, apparently. All this Disney Plus stuff is a real reason I don't see it, because I'm a physical collector person, or I prefer physical, because, I mean, heck, physical has always been kind of the godfather of home media, ever since, the early days when it even became, when it first became a thing to own a movie in your own home, after seeing it in a theater, or maybe you didn't see it in theaters and you wanted to still see it, and now you can in your home, and so, yeah, that's Disney Plus, though, is very stubborn when it comes to releasing that stuff on physical media for people that actually may be interested. Because, I mean, I admit I was kind of interested in trying The Mandalorian out, but I think I only saw season 2 in one of my stores, and it's no longer there. And I wasn't gonna get season 2 without getting season 1 first, which for whatever reason I've never seen on the shelf. So why season 2 was there but not season 1, I don't know. But I'm not gonna attack those people though that say unsettling things about a certain show, movie, trilogy, whatever, of Star Wars, or even Indiana Jones, whatever it is about, really, I'm not going to attack those people. I mean, I will say there's things in movies and stuff that I do, question the, some of the sanity for, some of the motivations, because, one thing I can definitely agree with, probably 90% of people, I'm sure, agree with this too, is that Taskmaster and Black Widow was not done very good. I mean, I admit the suit was cool, yeah, and perhaps the fighting, but just the overall, that they have to gender swap a character to please certain people. And, you know, like, I didn't have a problem with the Ancient One. In fact, I didn't know anything about the Ancient One until I saw Doctor Strange. So I didn't know it was actually a guy in the comics. But, you know, the Ancient One I have no problem with. I've kind of gotten used to Cosmo because, I mean, actually, you know, if anyone's got a dog, whether it's male, female, you don't really look at the gender, you look at the dog. And if it's your best friend, they're your best friend, you know, it doesn't matter. And so, you know, Cosmo kind of, not that Cosmo's my best friend, but being a dog, I can let it go, and stuff. And not to mention the motive behind that was actually, will admit, was a decent one for James Gunn. It was kind of a personal motive, but anyway. But yeah, you know, I think of maybe starting to stand up for people who are getting attacked. If I ever see like the really harsh things that I've heard about from the Godzilla fandom, and I see something like that with any fandom, whether it's Indiana Jones, Godzilla, Star Wars, you know, Minecraft even, and I don't play Minecraft all that much right now anymore. I was doing so in my 360 days, and then once it got onto my Xbox One, I kind of stopped because, granted, I did record some stuff for podcast purposes, but I haven't really played much of it since. But anyway, you know, like, you know, I just don't feel like I should stand by if I see that kind of thing anymore, you know, like, I mean, I'll admit I'm not the most knowledgeable person when it comes to social media stuff and, you know, reporting, providing evidence, all that stuff, and, you know, I will admit I'm quite lousy, and something that, you know, something a convict in a fandom would never say is they're lousy, you know, with something about the franchise, you know, like maybe they're not so knowledgeable about it. If they just say it's stupid, you know, whatever. They don't use their brain, they use their eyes or their, you know, programming, I guess. But yeah, you know, and, you know, that's another thing when people do attack others in a fandom, you know, like, I'm sure there's lots of, you know, not to get too into religious territory here, because this is about fandoms and stuff, but, you know, like, just first a thought, you know, people say, you know, I'm sure there's lots of unbelievers in fandoms, you know, they say God doesn't exist, Jesus Christ was a fictional character and all that blabber, and the Bible's a fictional book made by men, and, you know, but here's a thought. Star Wars, for example, is a fictional universe created by a man with fictional characters in it, just like in unbelievers' minds, just like God and Jesus and Mary and Joseph and Adam and Eve. So, why are you taking characters like Luke, Leia, Rey, you know, Anakin, Darth Malak from Knights of the Old Republic, for that matter? Why are you taking them so seriously if people have a different opinion about them? You know, and if, you know, if God's a fictional character and you don't take him seriously in life, why do you take, you know, Luke Skywalker so seriously? What's the difference between them? You know, if they're fictional, in your mind, anyway, one of them, if they're fictional, if they don't exist, you know, if they were man-made, and if they're not to be taken seriously. If one's not to be taken seriously, why is the other? And don't say it's because you focus on this one more than the other, you don't care about the other. That's not the point. The point is they're both fictional in your mind, again. I'm a believer. I'm not going to hide that. Granted, that's not what, this whole thing is about, but I'm a believer. And, while it bothers me to see people say things that, the Bible's a fictional storybook, I'm not going to go after them. I'll just, granted, I'm not very good at, I may be a believer, but I will admit my knowledge and wisdom are kind of in a below average level right now. I am trying to do better, but anyway, why is Luke Skywalker taken so seriously? He never existed, not even in a galaxy far, far away, which we've never even seen except from George Lucas's fictional Star Wars universe creation, I should say. And so if it's not to be taken seriously, then why take that seriously so much that you attack somebody who just has a different opinion about it? Maybe some people don't like Luke Skywalker from the original trilogy for whatever reason. Maybe it was his hair. Maybe it was his kind of snarkiness in Empire when he's basically being his father, impatient, just wanting to get things going already, doesn't want to wait any longer. And just like his father in episode 2, he also rushed in to fight the antagonist, and he didn't get zapped right away like his father did, but he certainly should have heeded Yoda's advice and not done that right away. If his friends suffer, which of course isn't a good thing, but best thing to do is let his friends suffer. His friends were bait, so Vader wasn't going to kill them anyway, right away. And for that matter, he wasn't going to kill them after either, as you remember him saying, telling Lando to take Leia and Chewie to his ship. He wasn't obviously just going to kill them then and there either. But, I don't need to keep going. You know how Empire goes, I'm assuming, if you've paid enough attention with your mind, eyes, and focus, and not just your preferential points in the movie. Don't take it so seriously. If you're not going to take one character or one fictional being in your mind so seriously, don't take every other one so seriously just because you like it, that's not being, I shouldn't say don't take it seriously in the sense that, it still means something to you, but don't take it seriously that you attack people because they think differently about the character, movie, trilogy, whatever the case, franchise for that matter. Don't take it so darn seriously. Just, if you have a disagreement and you just want to let it out there to the person, simply do that. Just simply say, well, like me, I don't mind the sequel trilogy. If somebody is saying, I'm not a fan of the sequels, I'll just say, yeah, that's fine to not be. It's fine if you don't like the sequels. I personally do. I think the characters are pretty interesting, actually, when you actually get to know them after a few watches, besides just the one and only watch that you walked out of the theater halfway through the movie on, or whatever. Fandoms are full of crazy people, and I'm not... Well, actually, that's a better one to put. That's a better word to use. Well, maybe not. Convict, con kind of goes together, I guess. Pros, professionals, that goes together too. And professionals know how to handle a situation. Like if somebody disagrees, they don't hold it against them at Starkiller Base Point, and they don't start machine gunning them with insults, thinking that and then, of course, thinking it's a victory if they manage to get somebody to stop liking something because of their relentless attacks. That's not being a fan. That's being... Well, that's not being a fan. That's being just an outright freak. And, if you have no self-control over yourself about that, then maybe get some before you continue being a fan of something, or calling yourself a fan of something, or being part of a fandom, only to attack other people in the fandom for not liking what you like. Maybe work on yourself before you start trying to, can try to engage with anyone that you disagree with. Because if you're just going to throw insults at them, stop yourself instantly. Don't bother with it. Think twice. Who's the real fan here? Is it the person who's got a different opinion than yours, or you for attacking them for having a different opinion? That's not being a fan. Unfortunately, that is not being a fan. And that's not me gatekeeping who gets to be one and who doesn't get to be one. I know what the difference between a fan and non-fan is, and non-fans, like I said in the beginning, bash what they hate and don't boast about what they like, And if you're a fan of something, boast. Don't bash. Either the franchise, movie, or other fans, or different opinionated fans. Don't bash them. Just either leave them be, leave them alone, or be civil about it when you go up to them, And I mean, if somebody is already being a basher of a series, then better to just let that rat alone. But if you see other rats, but if rats start coming after you because, if you're going to be a rat going after somebody is a better way to put it, then, don't be a rat. Be a person. Be a human, like us all are supposed to be. We're all the human race. We're not, we're not humans versus robots or humans versus orcs or whatever, We're humans, plain and simple. There's no, there's no differences in our species besides, visual ones perhaps, and maybe some biological ones, like, maybe somebody's born with, some disorder, but again, that's not the point. So yeah, don't, any haters or whatever listening to this that maybe have even a shred of conscience in themselves, just don't do that, just let people be fans. If they don't like what you like, or vice versa, then either disagree with them in a fan way, like not bashing them, but in a, like respectable way, like, if they don't like the Monsterverse, but you do, don't go after them because of that. Just say, like something, like for me, for instance, if somebody was calling me, not a Godzilla fan or whatever, I would just simply say, well, no, that's a bad example. Sorry. I'm trying to overthink stuff here a little bit, so because I don't want this to be longer than an hour of a video. So, but yeah, my point is though is that, you know, be a fan with other fans. Don't be a brigand about it, you know. Don't be a, you know, don't be a bozo. Be a, you know, be a fan, you know. And, you know, but another thing though is if you do see people being like that to other fans, that's when you need to step in between the victim and the rat, because, you know, like, you know, I see it all the time in news stories and stuff about people just standing by watching other people get attacked. You know, they're just standing with their phones or whatever. You know, and technically a lot of communities are like that, fandom communities, you know, they let others attack others, and all they're doing is sitting there on their keyboards watching it, you know, or looking at it, and not saying a darn thing, like, to the aggressor to, you know, quit doing that. So, you know, and I mean, like I said, I don't really see that too much on Facebook, because everybody's a bit of a jerk to everybody else. Like literally, like, I mean, there are a few people that I see like things, and and of course people do the laughing thing, and others just post a comment, but the other person doesn't reply. So, you know, if somebody is trying to pick a fight with you, you know, for liking something, you know, like I said, rats in a sewer. Don't feed the rat more attention. Let them starve, because they can't eat what they don't have. And if that's attention, you know, then you win for not giving them any. So, but anyway, I've talked about this a lot. So, you know, just to conclude my thing here, yeah, don't, you know, be a fan and boast about what you like. Don't be a hater and bash about what you hate. You know, if you're a real fan anyway, don't bash what you hate. Boast about what you like, and let the other, you know, let what you like about something, you know, outnumber or, you know, overpower what you hate about it. You know, like, there's scenes in movies that I've seen that I don't, you know, necessarily condone, or, you know, am particularly looking forward to when I know what's coming again when I'm watching the movie again, but I don't let it really get to me to the point where I turn the movie off all of a sudden, especially even if it's right at the end of the movie, for that matter. But, you know, like, but yeah, you know, like, let what you love about a franchise or thing, whatever, let it be more than what you hate. And anybody who, and, you know, also, you know, have more humanity in yourself for others, you know, like, if you see a bully going after somebody, step in, you know. I mean, I admit I'm not the bravest when it comes to doing that. I mean, it makes me mad when I hear about it, but then when the opportunity arises, I'm definitely nervous about it, because, you know, like, I'm gonna end up becoming the target, or the shared, you know, I'm gonna be the other target all of a sudden. But you know what? If people, like, supported more against the bullying, then, and supported the person getting bullied more, if more people did that, the bully would have no, the bully would be the one who would get nervous all of a sudden, because they, when, numbers matter. Numbers matter. If anybody's seen a zombie movie, numbers matter. Granted, zombies are less intelligent, but that's not the point. A fandom should be an army of, of boasting about what they love, and an army against, people hating what they, or bashing what they hate, including other fans that like the opposite thing. They maybe like this that you don't like, and so just stand up for people. I think people should start standing up for each other. That's the whole problem with this society, never mind fandoms. Nobody sticks up for anyone anymore. They just watch it happen, thinking that... I mean, I admit it's not an easy thing to suddenly, because our brains have this defense mechanism of wanting to avoid putting ourselves in harm's way, knowing what pain feels like when we're toddlers. We know what pain feels like, and we don't know how well we're going to do against this other person that's picking on this other person or whatever, but doing nothing is definitely not a brave thing. It's more of a, cowardly thing, I guess. And, people who feel like they need to leave a fandom, my sympathies to those people, because it's your choice, of course, but, anyone who is considering, my sympathies go to those people, but anyone who's considering leaving a fandom because of, morons, consider, do you want the moron to win, really, by leaving, or, do you want to have, more of a, do you want them to get nervous a bit by not leaving, they're the ones who need to leave a fandom, not you for loving a franchise, them for, bashing you for loving something that they don't like in a franchise. Let them leave. They can be their own fandom in their own mind, in their own worlds, where negativity rules and there's no positivity of any kind. It's their world, and that's the mindset of a narcissist. Their world is the only one that matters. So let them live in their world. They need to leave the fandom, community, whatever. Make their own personal one in their heads. But, don't bow to them. Don't bow to them. You're just letting them win, and, then they're just going to find someone else to get off too, and death threat, all over the place too. Report them, and don't hide their names. They need to be named and shamed, not, name and shame, not, not hidden. They need to be named, so that hopefully the appropriate powers, hopefully the powers of, the Discord chat or whatever, make the right decision and get rid of that person, off their thing. Let them be a jerk to themselves, not to others, So, but anyway, that's all my thinking. I'm sorry if any of it confused any of you. I mean, I do talk a lot, hence you'll notice in my podcasts with some other people, but I'm I'm a talkative person, but if none of you, hopefully it doesn't confuse you too much with all that I said, because I was jumping around quite a bit there. But yeah, it's just the whole point is, be a fan. If you're, firstly, be a fan of what you like. And if you are a fan, boast about it. Don't bash what you don't like about it. Because then you're just becoming a person that has no self-control over, themselves. And then when you start seeing people liking the thing you don't like, like this scene, in this movie, or this fight battle in this video game, or whatever the heck your problem is, and they actually like it, and you start going after them, that's when you lose the privilege of being a fan, because it's a privilege to be a fan of something. It means you have interests. It's not a privilege to attack people for having their own interests in the same thing. And if you think otherwise, then yeah, get some, work on yourself a little before you come back to, talking to other fans about a franchise. Work on some self-control, Work on some self-control. Work on some self-discipline, for that matter. Work on some some self-humility. Some humility, Humanity, If you have any left, stop holding it down and let it help it to grow more, so that you have more. But anyway, yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Again, I'm sorry if any of you are confused by this, and I'm sorry if, I took this long to get it all out there. This was actually not supposed to be this long, but, sometimes things have to be long to get a point across. But, and show support, of course, too, and all that. So, and so, yeah, like, my sympathies go out to those who leave fandoms, especially ones that I don't know if I'm a part of a fandom or if I'm just a fan, but I don't care which one. But fandoms of things that I am a fan of, my sympathies go out to those people who left those fandoms, all because of, a bunch of rats that wouldn't leave you alone and basically got you to leave their sewer, even though there's probably friendlier ones. Not that I'm calling them rats, but friendlier, there's other people in the sewer too that, but yeah, so my sympathies go out to them, though, and anyone else who feels they need to leave or considering they're gonna leave or whatever. I suppose you don't have to be part of a fandom to be a fan, but if you are part of one, you should feel privileged of being part of one instead of, pestered by those who feel more privileged or whatever, But anyway, so yeah, so this is my video 2 cents, whatever, on this whole fandom thing. Again, it's not just one fandom, it's all of them, and of course I was talking about ones that franchises I'm a fan of, but there's other ones out there that I probably don't. There's other franchises out there I don't really care about that probably have fandoms too, but it's for all fandoms, So, anyway, so yeah. So, this is Recon Trooper signing out now. Later, folks.